YouTube live stream. We're glad to hear your feedback. We love hearing your questions and comments on that platform. Although I do have to say, it seems like Facebook and YouTube have been ever so difficult for our friends to join in. They have all kinds of little weird issues, so we don't know what that's all about. Garbage software, garbage platform, or just little algorithms. We don't know what their system's all about. Don't really care. They're kind of an afterthought to me. What we're doing here is building an infrastructure for a media project that will transcend and outlast the garbage that Facebook and YouTube like to promote as peddlers of false information and big pharma garbage junk, big business, big banks, big ugly, big stinky. That's what Facebook and YouTube are owned by. Big ugly, big stinky, big outdated ideas. And they're all losing with that. That's a loser's game, and we're not going to play their game. That's why we don't go tweeting 10,000 times a day. It's a waste of time. You got a small time on this earth, right? You got, just a set amount of times around the sun. Why waste it spending your entire life staring at screens, giving these garbage bigots in Silicon Valley your life force, your attention, your dependency? So what we do is we're going to build our own media architecture across radio stations, television, wherever we will have an opportunity to share the message that toxic groupthink has no place in a civilized society, that thinking for ourselves is the solution. I look at these the headlines here, and I just heard the news right before we came back to you for this hour. And, Joe Biden said that he is in a battle for the soul of this country. That he's in a battle against hate. Did you know that Joe Biden is in a battle against hate? Can you believe that? I mean, I can't believe that's exciting. I mean, my goodness. Joe Biden he's in a battle against the spread of hatred. He just said, I just heard him. Can you believe that? Joe Biden is battling against the spread of hatred. Well, that's kind of strange because, the Communist Party leader, Bob Avakian, has announced his support for Joe Biden. He's the founder and leader of the Revolutionary Communist Party USA. He told his followers in a statement that they should vote for Joe Biden. So if Joe Biden is in a battle against hatred, surely he will disavow an endorsement from a hate group like the Communist Party, which has killed, 100 million people now around the world? And he could say, well, this is the American branch. But wait a second, communists don't recognize borders. They're an international group. They believe in an international organization. So they better take the count, since they're all in it together with their comrades around the world. They should take responsibility, using such a bigoted ideology as their brand. 100 million people or more, people being persecuted right now in North Korea. People being persecuted in the name of communism all over this world. So I would think that how could Joe Biden say he's in a battle against hatred itself if he's taking endorsements against one of the most hateful, disgusting persecutors known to mankind? The wicked religion called communism. Amazing. I wonder how long and how hard Joe Biden has fought in his battle against the spread of hatred. Was he battling against the spread of hatred when Joe Biden voted for the crime bill, cheerleaded it on, helped write the crime bill, locking up tens of thousands, if not millions, if you look at the full record and the full years these laws have been on the books, millions of people of color, millions of every color, millions of women and men locked up by a bigot named Joe Biden. So was Joe Biden fighting against the spread of hatred when he said, hey, if you're a woman and you have a child at home, we're going to create a law that says we will lock you up and deprive that child of his ability to nurse with his mother or her mother because we're against the spread of hatred. Is that what Joe Biden stands for? Wow. Is Joe Biden, was he standing against the spread of hatred when he bailed out the billionaire bankers on Wall Street in 2008 so they could have lucrative pensions? And then after the scam was done, he said, yeah, some of them should have been locked up. Well, yeah, of course, you can say that now. You already gave them the scam. So is Joe Biden and his acolytes, were they against the spread of hatred when they colluded with foreign governments with managed trade deals like NAFTA and CAFTA and other trade deals that looted and destroyed and assaulted small businesses and the freedom to start a business and to have a chance because of the rigged game of managed trade deals? Was he against the spread of hatred there? Was he against the spread of hatred when he ramped up the drug war, the police state, the surveillance of innocents? When he bombed countries that did nothing to us and is so arrogant he can't even admit he was wrong? Was he against the spread of hatred when he unleashed a modern slave trade where Africans are being enslaved because of his efforts to overthrow Libya for special interests to pillage that country, plummeting people of color in Libya into dire poverty, suffering, killing? Terrible conditions. That's Joe Biden's definition of being against the spreading of hate. That is a liar, okay? That is not something you just say, oh, yeah, he didn't mean it, he's trying. No, that's a liar. That is a scam artist. And he's expecting the public to be so dumbed down by the destruction of the economy, causing us to be so frazzled and distracted, that he thinks that we can't see his record of hatred. Not just hatred, but the spreading of misery, of suffering, of poverty, and of death. You see, the people in Libya, their lives did not matter to Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and Obama. They were just doing their job. Their job was to serve special interests that can make money off of chaos in Libya. You see how it works? They were doing their job. You know, if this was the Nuremberg trial, they would just say, I was doing my job. I was hired by these special interests to make a killing for them, killing people in Libya. That's what Joe Biden and Obama did. They're just doing their job, man. That's what they'd say. Of course, they would hide behind, oh, but he did bad things. He killed people. Well, yeah, and so did you. You killed more. You know, the people who are addicted to doing amoral things, they always find a way to justify their amorality by hiding behind victims. They hide behind victims. So in the case of someone like Joe Biden and Obama, they always will present, well, look, we had to unleash the slave trade and we had to destroy all the prosperity that Libya had and loot their gold and all this stuff because he was a bad guy. It's like a child, you know. Well, he was bad first, therefore we can be bad. That's the way these folks think. That's the geniuses that get Nobel Prizes today, like Obama. Kills U.S. citizens and their sons in drone strikes, and then wants to lecture you about caring for the lives of people of color. Disgusting. Disgusting liars. But you got to be able to speak up against this, right? Don't play the little conservative ink game. All they do is just capitulate. They're just little, like I said, Harlem Globetrotters. Have you ever watched those games? There's a designated team they play that always gets dunked on. That's the conservative ink garbage. Don't pay attention to them. We're going to unpack the truth by thinking for ourselves, by abandoning the toxic groupthink from D.C. We're live on A Neighbor's Choice. I'm David Gronowski. Stay tuned. Back in a moment.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It's a stressful process. There are attorneys in Tampa Bay that keep clients well informed, creating less stress. That law firm is Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't realize they have a claim for the loss until they talk to Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to Catania.com. Over 28 years in practice. Catania, personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys. Catania, putting families first.
Office Tampa. Not attorney spokeswoman.
Let's face it, these are stressful times. New routines, the constant bombardment of bad news, and trying to keep you and your family safe all the time. It's Frank for Center for Men's Health. During these stressful times, your mood is so critical, and nothing's more important to a guy's mood than testosterone. The single greatest issue for guys with low T is mood, and the single greatest change for men that get low T care is a greatly improved mood. Many are grumpy when they start, and most can't believe how much their mood improves once they get treated. And everything improves once your mood improves. Feel the difference C4MH.com can make in your life. I've been a patient of C4MH.com for a couple of years, and recently I've lost 20 pounds because now I have the energy to work out from home. And that'll put you in a good mood too. C4MH.com's express treatment plan is convenient, affordable, and above all, safe. And with locations all up and down West Florida, there's one near you right now. Find out more. Go to C4MH.com.
Coronavirus is threatening the entire world. Can you protect you and your family? Even getting tested can cost you up to $3,200 out of pocket. Would you be able to afford that for you and your family? Well, free Obamacare will cover and protect today. New insurance may cost you nothing. Zero premium plans are available. If you've lost your job, you must call 877-652-0244 or text VIRUS to 919191 or log on to freeobamacare.com. Call us today. We'll get you enrolled, get you qualified coverage to protect you from not only this outbreak, but day in and day out sickness and illness. Our plans cover visits, testing, emergency and urgently needed care, medications, and more. Now more than ever, you need to act now and call now. No long lines, and we can get you coverage today. That's 877-652-0244 or text VIRUS to 919191. That's 877-652-0244.
Welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice. David Gronowski here. So I'm talking about Joe Biden's battle against the spread of hatred. This is a man who has cheerled crimes against nonviolent people. How many people has he spread hatred to when he created laws and backed laws that locked people up forever for a drug, where they had a problem, maybe they had an addiction? He threw them in a cage. That's his way of spreading hatred. He loves, wait a second, he's against hatred. I'm sorry, I mistake. So this is his way of battling against hatred, is he takes mothers away from their babies and locks them up for nonviolent things because they dated somebody who did drugs, or they dated somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody. And because they can't afford an attorney like his family, like his son, who has drug problems, he locks everybody else up to scapegoat. Why? Because he's just doing his job. His job is to come up with little dumb slogans like a battle for the spread against hatred. It's dumb because it's a patent lie, okay? Anybody with a functioning mind can look at Joe Biden and say, this guy has done nothing to stop the spread of hatred. This is a guy who has pillaged the poor, who has pillaged our education, who has pillaged our jobs, who has pillaged foreign countries and poor people around the world. He's looted the Ukrainian people, pillaged the poverty-stricken folks there, pillaged Libya, pillaged Afghanistan, pillaged Yemen, pillaged Iraq, pillaged anybody that special interests told that boy to do. He said, yes, sir, to the establishment. Joe Biden said, yes, sir. He said, yes, sir. What do you want me to do? We're going to bomb those people? Okay. Tell me where to sign. Okay, I'll vote for it. That's what this fella done his whole life. Someone said, hey, lock these people up. It'll make us money. He said, okay, sure. And then for his entire life, he comes in for the grand finale and says, now I'm running for president, and I'm going to convince millions of people, whether it's the baby boomers who used to be, the flower children, make love, not war, they used to say, whether it's Gen X who understood the disgusting frivolity and they raged against the machine of empire, right? Whether it's millennials and Generation Z who lived under the shadow of post 9/11, living under that awful, disgusting police state built by the Bush administration and their Democratic allies like Nancy Pelosi. Joe Biden has been all about that his entire life. And he does all that. And he thinks he can convince people who are so dizzy or so low information that they're going to say, yeah, your whole life has been one of pillaging poor people for the uber rich, pillaging jobs, bankrupting us, printing trillions of dollars to pay for special interests and greedy bureaucrats. And what was the outcome? Millions of people suffering, impoverished, starving in many cases around the world. That's what this man has contributed to humanity. And you know what? It bothers Democrats very much that they're going to vote for a bigot like this. It eats them up. Now, I'm talking about the average. I'm not talking about the weirdos at the top of the leadership of that party. I'm talking about the average Joe. Those folks who want to be self-righteous. It eats them up that they're so weak when it comes to disobeying and defying peer pressure, that they would vote to perpetuate the exploitation of the poor and the middle class and the foreigner by a proven scam artist like Joe Biden. Now, I'm not singling him out in particular. He's just their latest god they want to put up for power. But I am exposing the lie, right? Because there's one thing we know clear, that the left hates the idea of ever being seen on the side of hate. But they hate it so much because they do it so much. We saw how they treat immigrants. We saw how they talk about Melania Trump. Look, I am farther away from Donald Trump's politics than any of the clowns in the Democratic Party. Elizabeth Warren, all those people, they all want the worship government. I don't. Okay, so they're closer together with Trump. But I can still see clearly that they're bigoted when it comes to immigrants because they mock Melania Trump's accent, because they think she's a safe immigrant type that they can mock, Eastern European. Even though the country and the reason why they're mocking her accent is because they're saying that people from those countries are poor and less than. So they're disgusting, blazing, racist, disgusting people. And they do this on all their garbage programming, Saturday Night Live. It's not like we're talking about one troll on Twitter. This is what their big billion-dollar enterprise media entities do openly. They take someone like Dr. Stella Emanuel, that medical doctor who has some different religious views that some may find very strange, okay? But they knew that because she was not touting Big Pharma's lies, that nothing except for a new patented drug can do anything about this virus. They had to fetishize her religious views about demons and stuff because they knew, because she has an accent and she's from Africa as an immigrant, that they could fetishize and marginalize this woman. They're disgusting and bigoted. They do it in mainstream sight, and nobody's allowed to expose what they're doing. Well, we're doing that. So they do all of that, and they're just eaten up inside that they're so, because if you live in such walking contradictions daily, it's going to tear you apart. It's going to tear your psyche apart to live in such dramatic contradictions. To say you're for green energy, but yet they want to ban clean nuclear fusion from even having any, attention. They're liars. They say they're for health care for the poor, but they only want to do what Big Pharma can do that makes obscene profit margins for a few. They don't want to use generic drugs. They don't even want to have any research available for that kind of stuff. They want to rig the market so that there's all the money flowing towards things that can be patented. How do you live with yourself saying, oh, I'm for the poor, and putting on little statements saying hate has no home in my house, while you do everything to eliminate any competition against Big Pharma and patented new drugs that have obscene profit margins? You gotta feel terrible inside. Now, some of these folks aren't even aware of what they're doing. They're just talking, right? They're just parroting in a mindless state of groupthink possession, right? And so we have to be mindful of that kind of situation. But a lot of these people, I think they understand, at least unconsciously, how absolutely ridiculous the contradictions of their positions are. That they actually stand for nothing. That hate has complete home in the mainstream leftist groupthink of our media and our culture makers that are failing right before our eyes. Hate is fully at home in the record of their savior, Joe Biden. Hate is fully at home in what Barack Obama did. Hate is fully entrenched into the actions of Hillary Clinton because they continue to promote violence in everything they do. And what is violence if not a physical manifestation of hatred? And to live with that burden of cognitive dissonance has got to do a number on these people's ability to live with themselves. It's got to do a number on their ability to maintain their sense of self, their sense of sanity, their sense of anything. And I feel bad for folks caught up in that lie. You don't have to stay there. You don't have to vote for Trump, you don't have to vote for anybody, but you can't stay in that level of self-righteous insanity. So I'm asking folks listening to me now who may be tempted by that groupthink to go.
There is all kinds of lunacy going on. The madness of 2020.
Weekdays 11 to 2.
I'm just so fed up with these Democrats. It's unbelievable.
Get it straight from Chris Plant.
They're so hypocritical. It makes me sick.
It's the Chris Plant Show.
This has just got me going off.
And the left is waging war against the police in the United States.
Telling it like it is.
You should be thanked profusely for getting to the point. You're a voice of reason in the sea of idiots.
The Chris Plant Show. Weekdays 11 to 2. News Talk 1040 WHBO.
President Trump is expected to start his latest COVID-19 briefing at any time now. Earlier today, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo called out the president, saying the nation needs a hard reset to fix the rampant COVID spikes.
It was a mistake to say it's just the flu. It was a mistake to say it's gone by Easter. It was a mistake to say it's going to magically disappear when it gets warm. It was a mistake to say I see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Cuomo insisting that any reset must start with the president owning his mistakes in dealing with the crisis. There's still no deal on the next coronavirus economic stimulus package. The sticking point is the federal bump up in unemployment benefits. Democrats want to keep it at the now expired $600 a week, and Republicans want to reduce it to $200. Wall Street starts the week and the month by extending their rallies. Dow up over 200 points, the Nasdaq up over 100 and at an all-time high. Daria Albingary.
So if you're still struggling with that cognitive dissonance of trying to be progressive, trying to put on statements like hate has no home here, and then voting for a man like Biden who has done everything his entire life to enable the hatred of your neighbor, to bomb innocent people at the behest of special interests running D.C. bureaucracies, to bomb and sanction starve innocent children. You know, when a child is going hungry for no reason other than Joe Biden, I can assure you that he is not stopping the spread of hatred. And for that mother in Iran or in Yemen or wherever else, Biden going along like a faithful servant of his special interests, that when those parents, those mothers, those fathers have to try to find food for a starving child because of Joe Biden's sanctions, the last thing they're thinking about is that Joe Biden is stopping the spread of hatred. Their children's hungry mouths speak a better word, a more truthful word of the lies that your garbage media wants to regurgitate. They have no moral backbone, so many folks in media. And so therefore, they have no qualms with lying to you to get you to do regime change for Syria, Libya, and so forth. And Trump has not lived up to his promise at all of what he said. He said he would get us out of those countries. We're still in there. But at least he hasn't started another war. With Hillary, we probably would have had 3 wars already cooking, new ones. She wanted a no-fly zone, and she promised a no-fly zone over Syria. She was basically setting us up for war with Russia. Could have been a catastrophic thing now. Who knows whether she would have done it, but that's what she was promising, and millions of people hatefully said, hey, I'll go with World War III. Hey, let's have nuclear war. If it's a woman doing it, hey, that's a victory for humanity. That's how stupid these people have become. You know what I mean? They don't care about the women dying because of Hillary Clinton's bombs and Joe Biden's bombs. They don't care. They just care about the little symbolic victory that they get to feel self-righteous and smug. Oh, I voted for a woman. Look, a woman's president. That's how shallow it is on the left. And it is on the right mostly too. But at least on the right, you can have a conversation, as I have had with many who are open to peace and true principled anti-war positions. For example, Rachel Maddow was against wars when it was convenient to be against wars. And now that her party is for wars, she's for wars. But, Tucker Carlson has been consistently against wars that are evil, regardless of who's doing them. Trump, Republicans, Democrats, whoever. So there's a difference in quality there. You can see it. It's obvious. It speaks for itself. And that's why the victory for the future lies with liberty. Because liberty is consistent. And respect for the human person is consistent. You see, it's a simple thing. When you abandon the sight of the human person, then you start justifying after-birth abortion. You start justifying sanctions against Yemen because Obama did it or Biden did it, so therefore it's okay. Hillary Clinton can destroy millions of women in Libya and laugh about it, and it's okay because she's a woman. That's the kind of amoral insanity that means hate has consumed you fully. And we don't have to buy into that. You can let go of that. I'm trying to tell you, you don't have to cling on to that. If you're listening to me and you're caught up in collectivism, you don't have to hang on to that. You don't have to let that burdensome ideology just weigh in on you like that. You don't have to have it. You can have the fresh air of freedom. You can breathe it in. You can think for yourself. You don't have to succumb to that kind of stupidity, that kind of moral shrunkeness that's pathetic. You don't have to. You can just say no. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing. You don't have to. You can have your freedom. A Lancet study says lockdowns, testing don't cut COVID deaths. They compiled all the data from different data that was available and concluded there wasn't a big change. You saw in Germany there was a big, massive protest over the COVID lockdown politics. So we can see that around the world, there is still a hunger for freedom. There's still a hunger for freedom. And that's something that we should never squelch. We should never lose sight of that. That freedom is on the march. Freedom will always win, even if it looks dire in some situations. I think the world is objectively better than the day in which the way you solve colds was you sacrifice people. They're still trying to sacrifice people. They do it in more sterile and bureaucratic ways from government, but they still try to. But nevertheless, the game is being exposed. People's tolerance for brutality is not the same as it was back when people would be filleted alive. Can we admit that? At least in the West, we have made progress, and we will continue to make progress if we are vigilant in the fight for our liberty and for the preservation of peace. That means we have to have a backbone, and that means we can't go along with the status quo of any party just because we hate the other group. That's not going to work. You can't hate. Hate doesn't get you what you think it's going to get you. Now, I think we have the Trump press conference going on right now about the coronavirus. Let's see if we can cut to that a little bit and see if we hear any news being made.
See evidence of significant progress. Nationwide, the number of positive cases has declined by nearly 6% from the week before, and the positive test rate has also dropped from 8.7 to 8% over that same period of time. An encouraging sign, very encouraging, I have to add, that the virus is receding. In hotspots across the South and West, we've seen slow improvements from their recent weekly peaks. Arizona's weekly case counts have dropped 37%. That's a tremendous drop, and the governor and the state have done a fantastic job. Down 37%. Texas down 18.7%. I was there a couple of days ago. And Florida, 21.2% drop. So that's a tremendous job that they're all doing. As we begin to contain the virus in these states, we must focus on new flare-ups in the states where the case numbers have risen, including Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Missouri, and I think you'll find that they're soon going to be very much under control. Meanwhile, 18 states continue to have very low case numbers and low test positivity rates, under 5%. Alaska, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Montana, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, North Dakota, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont, West Virginia, and Wyoming. It's under 5. Even in these states, however, where the virus is under control and at a very low number, Americans should continue to be vigilant, be careful, in order to prevent the new hotspots from opening up, or any new hotspots from opening up in those states. To that end, I urge all Americans to continue to socially distance, wash your hands, wear a mask when you cannot avoid crowded places, and to protect the elderly. Very, very important. Protect the elderly. It's much different. Young children have very strong immune systems. We've learned how strong they are. But protect the elderly. The average age of those who succumb to the virus is 78 years old. That's the average age. It's important for all Americans to recognize that a permanent lockdown is not a viable path toward producing the result that you want, or certainly not a viable path forward, and would ultimately inflict more harm than it would prevent. As we're seeing in foreign countries around the world where cases are once again surging, you have many places where we thought they were under control and doing a great job, and they are doing a great job, but this is a very tough, invisible enemy. Lockdowns do not prevent infection in the future. They just don't. It comes back, many times comes back. The purpose of a lockdown is to buy time to build capacity, especially as with respect to hospitals, learn more about the disease and develop effective treatments. As we did in the United States. We're doing very well with the vaccines and the therapeutics. Countries where there have been very significant flare-ups over the last short period of time are Spain, Germany, France, Australia, Japan, and also, as you probably heard, in Hong Kong, they've had some very serious flare-ups. Japan has gone, a lot of six-fold flare-up. That's a lot, but they'll get it under control. In our current phase, we must focus on protecting those at highest risk while allowing younger and healthier Americans to resume work and school with careful precautions. Ideally, we want to open those schools. We want to open them. At the same time, we're placing an emphasis on continuing to drive down the mortality rate with improved care, treatment, and medical interventions, building a bridge to the introduction of a vaccine. The vaccines are coming along incredibly well. Today, I'd like to also provide an update on the actions of my administration and the work that we've done. We're really taking an increased interest, and we're seeing numbers that nobody can even believe in terms of percentage increase. It's telehealth for American patients. The percentage increase is being worked on right now, but it's very, very significant, numbers that you would not even think possible. This has been a priority from the beginning of my administration when we launched an initiative to allow veterans to connect remotely with their VA healthcare team, and it worked out really well. We have a 91% approval rating in the VA in terms of the job we're doing. This is the first, it's the highest ever recorded. Now telehealth is a critical part of our path forward in the VA, and it's becoming a critical path, especially with our senior citizens. You don't have to go to the doctor's office. You don't have to go to hospitals. When the invisible enemy struck our shores, I took immediate action to eliminate regulatory barriers to telehealth, making it easier for patients to consult with doctors from safety and convenience. And really, they have great safety and great convenience right from their homes. Today, I'm taking action to ensure telehealth is here to stay. Moments ago in the Oval Office, I signed an executive order to make many of our regulatory reforms permanent. We've done some regulatory reforms that have had a tremendous impact on what we're doing, on medicine and medical and what we're doing. They can do things that you wouldn't believe, that even a year ago, 2 years ago, would not have been doable. We're enshrining the right of American patients to meet with their medical providers in a way that is best for them and very, very convenient, and very talented people on the other side of the line, I have to tell you. The order builds upon a series of actions we've all taken to make telehealth available to all. We ensured that Medicare covers telehealth visits at no additional cost. That's no additional cost. And co-payments can be waived for telehealth services. We are working very hard also on prescription drug prices, and I will tell you that the favored nations clause that I've signed into existence, nobody thought anybody would ever do that, has a massive impact on prescription drug prices, in addition to the three other elements of reduction of drugs, particular prescription drugs, but
You're listening
the favored
to
nations clause is massive.
the live
For instance,
press conference
if Germany
for
buys
the
a pill
coronavirus with the
for 10
White
cents
House.
a pill, as an example, just as an
And we're going to take a quick break. We'll
and the
continue
United States
live in
pays
just a
$2
moment.
for the
Don't
same
go
pill.
anywhere.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It's a stressful process. There are attorneys in Tampa Bay that keep clients well informed, creating less stress. That law firm is Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't realize they have a claim for the loss until they talk to Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you, Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com. Over 28 years in practice. Catania, personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys. Catania, putting families first.
Office Tampa. Not attorney spokeswoman.
Baseball is back, and as always, the name of the game in baseball is to go home and be safe. Well, nobody protects all the pieces of your life like Italiano Insurance. Whether it's your home, car, life, disability, long-term care, Italiano keeps you safe. We can never predict what's going to happen in a baseball game, and we can never predict what's going to happen in life. So call the trusted agents at Italiano and make sure you're covered. Welcome back, Rays and baseball. Call Italiano at 813-877-7799 or go to ItalianoInsurance.com.
Conservative Amanda Mackey earned the American dream. Mackey escaped a brutal regime that persecuted Christians. She worked her way through college and served in the Pentagon after 9/11. In Congress, Amanda Mackey will stand with President Trump to support our brave police officers, secure the border, and enforce the rule of law. Mackey will protect Florida families from crushing tax increases and eliminate job-killing regulations to rebuild our economy and get Floridians back to work. With Charlie Crist and Nancy Pelosi exploiting the coronavirus to advance socialism, Florida needs to send a conservative fighter to Congress. Here's Amanda Mackey.
Charlie Crist and Nancy Pelosi want to turn America into a socialist country. Together, we can stop them.
Conservative Amanda Mackey has lived the American dream, and now she's ready to defend it as our voice in Congress.
I'm Amanda Mackey, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Amanda Mackey for Congress.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
800-361-3491. Again, that's 800-361-3491.
I'm Neighbor's Choice returns. David Gronowski here. You can email me hello@neighborschoice.com. That's hello@neighborschoice.com. You know, one thing about those White House press conferences they do, and the ones that the Democrats do with Governor Cuomo and whoever, is they never talk about, you know, the foundational things that, you know, if government's going to be the nanny that it is for so many people who depend on it because they religiously worship the state, tell them when to put a mask on while they're running in a forest with nobody around, stupid stuff like that. There's a lot of people that just stupidly worship government, and that's fine, right? I guess you can choose who you want to worship, just so long as you're not using that worship to bludgeon and hurt your neighbor, then we have a problem. And that often happens when you have politics, right? But, you know, if you want to just worship government in terms of their be-all, end-all about what to believe, and that's how millions of folks do, politically correct. That's what it means to be politically correct, to be correct in the eyes of the sacred government that you're supposed to worship. The one thing that bothers me about this nanny state that people want is if they really care about the masses the way they pretend, whatever the party is, how come they never talk about the foundational role that nutrition and sunshine and social healthy life with your social friends and you know, affirmations of positivity and being, you know, in terms of people treating you kindly and hugging you and spending time with people that are caring. You're not getting that when you're socially distancing all the time in terms of, you know, the extreme level that a lot of them want. And you're not getting proper nutrition if you're listening to the food pyramid. So it's sad to me, you know, because if you want to have a government that is going to be your nanny god, you'd think that those who want to play that role in government would have the decency to tell those folks that listen to their every word to, hey, you know, we actually found out that eating a massive amount of carbohydrates and sugar is not good for the immune system. And not getting sun exposure is not good for the immune system either. And taking so many drugs and so forth that are pharmaceutical drugs, that can sometimes be detrimental to the health too, when you're taking tons and tons of drugs with toxic side effects. They don't tell you any of that. And that's sad. Because you'd think that if they had any ounce of care, and they know that, I mean, think about that for a second. Think about being in the government politician's shoes for a moment. Imagine that millions and millions of people hang on your every word as God. And you know that. And you know that they're not going to shake their faith in the state. And then you know that it takes 5 seconds to research that the food pyramid is garbage, but you can't tell them. So you know that children's lives are at stake because many people's parents are religious, dogmatically, mentally submitted to whatever state bureaucrats say. That's what they do. That's their religion. That's their superstition. And so for those folks, you would think, if you were a statist, you'd say, golly, I got to tell them something. I mean, these people's kids and stuff are hanging in the balance, that you would talk about nutrition. You would talk about the importance of having a natural, ancestral-based diet, the importance of, saturated fats as a part of the immune system, and the removal of toxic carbohydrates and high amounts of fructose, the damage that does to the liver when you eat that, the damage that does to the body. So you'd think that would be something, right? And I have to give Trump a little bit of credit when he actually mentioned azithromycin in conjunction with hydroxychloroquine. He took a lot of heat for that. And I think those are the moments when they hate Trump the most. Because by and large, he's not cutting government. Has he cut, one department? No. So he's not a, firebrand, downsized DC kind of guy. But, he kind of trims around the hedges a little bit, regulation cuts, which are good. But the thing I think they hate the most is his unpredictability. The fact that he would have the audacity to say, as he did in those press conferences, that hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin and zinc or whatever, that whole thing, he said, I think it was hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin is what he said, that those could be promising. And that is sacrilege in the state worship cult that millions of people have, because millions of folks have been conditioned that the only thing that can be considered medicine is that which the official government bureaucracy and the FDA have deemed to be specifically designed for that disease. And that means something that's new. That means it has a patent. That means you can charge obscene monopoly profits to people because of the government granting you that fictitious power. They give you a fiction called patents, and then you can make obscene profits. And the left and the mainstream folks, they know that. The mainstream left knows that. And it must eat them up inside to be, again, so contorted morally that you can act like you're on the side of the poor. Meanwhile, you keep science so truncated, so held back because of obscene patents and monopoly powers that you give a select few corporations and their bureaucratic cronies inside government. And so the fact that Trump would say, even mention it, yeah, take Z-Pak. Now, I don't know about the hydroxychloroquine side of that, but I do know, based on my own research with Dr. Michael Lasanti and others who we've interviewed on the program, you can go to aneighborschoice.com and look up Lasanti or look up Z-Pak or azithromycin and see it, that you'll see that there is a strong hypothesis to make that needs to be tested, that Z-Pak could be a great frontline defense or prophylactic, or preventative is another word for, or early treatment for this new virus. That is something that is a hypothesis that should be tested with double-blind studies. And yet there's no money for that. I think there's just one that's maybe, I don't know if they're still even doing it yet. There's one I saw in the United States testing azithromycin alone. And so, the idea that something that's generic, that's widely prescribed for all kinds of things, it's an antibiotic, So it's generic. It's generic. So it doesn't have any profit protection on the profit it doesn't have any patent protecting the profits, right? And so the left, which say they're for the poor, they're actually for the uber rich. They're what I call corporate communists. They want corporate obscene profits for a few corporations, like big pharma companies, and then communist scraps, like we're dogs, to the rest of us. That's how they think, that things should be run that way. And I totally reject that. I believe in the power of the freedom. I believe in the power of the freedom to do what you want to do. I believe in the power of free minds and free people working together, finding the solution that works. If you have one legal group that's a monopoly called bureaucracy, that is the only one that's allowed to decree something medicine, how less effective is that for finding the truth and finding answers when you could have millions of people with the freedom to actually explore and find the truth for what works? And the left, in the politically correct crowd, and those on the right too, often say, well, if we had a free market in medicine, it would be snake oil salesmen. No, it would not. That's a bold-faced lie. Because without the FDA, you would have a lot more protection from a consumer standpoint against fraudulent actors. You would actually have more opportunity to sue bad actors who are claiming to solve solutions like diseases, but not, right? So you could actually have more skin in the game without having these protection organizations like the FDA rigging the market for obscene profiteers. So I just wish, if you're going to have a nanny state and everybody wants to have that garbage lie, that superstition persist, that at least there would be somebody there. And I have to give Trump credit for that, because he mentioned Z-Pack. I've never seen any politician do that. So he gets credit where credit is due. And that is a legitimately, he still doesn't, I don't know if he understands the full role that Z-Pack potentially could play, but he did mention that. And we do know from Dr. Lasanti and other people's research that Z-Pack has demonstrated antiviral effects. So for that, that's a commendable thing. And that's a rare thing, because the name of the game in Washington is conformity to the special interests. And that is always find a new drug that can be patented with obscene profit margins. Don't promote generics. Don't promote natural things. Don't promote a good immune system through food. Just let people have suffering. Well, we're going to fight back against that, because it's time to protect our neighbors and love our neighbors as ourselves. I'm David Gronowski. Email me, hello@aneighborschoice.com. We'll see you tomorrow. Godspeed.
Thank you.